Welcome, everyone, to the Pick Six podcast, where we discuss the biggest stories in college football. Welcome to another Victory Monday. What a way to start a week. Happy Monday, y'all. I am your host, Chris Chang. And as a reminder, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps us out here and get our videos up and out there into the interwebs. Also, send us your story ideas to the pick6guys@gmail.com. Address in the description below. We want to know, what do you guys want to hear and see us talk about? As for today, there's only one thing we need to talk about. Miami, undefeated again, beating FSU 28-22. What a game it was. I am a little upset by the way the fourth quarter went. I had to take a day, decompress, recoup the vibes by jumping on the internet, riding the wave of positivity. But we're going to get into some of the things we didn't like about this game. But what I thought was the most important thing of this game is Miami proved it can kill you in a million different ways. FSU was able, sadly, to keep the rushing attack at bay, but that meant they could not stop the aerial attack. Miami was only able to rush 97 yards. 97 yards, guys. Not going to cut it, but we're proving we're an elite team. You want to stop us this way? We've got this weapon. You want to stop that weapon? We've got that weapon. And we did it through the air. Miami's wide receivers were able to out-athlete all of the FSU secondary. Almost every score came from a substantial yard after catch. The yak. I thought another great thing, like as you can see, we're starting off with the offense, is Shannon Dawson really opened up the playbook considerably. I think up until this game, Miami had been, lack of better terms, a little vanilla, you know. A lot of the packages were rinsed and reused for each of the games, and we didn't really see a lot of deep threats, a lot of deep attacks up until this point. Boy, did that change against the rivals. And there's something else. Something else I've noticed up until this point with Shannon Dawson, and I haven't heard anyone else talk about it, but peep this. Ready? Something I've noticed, Shannon Dawson will take inspiration from his opponents. Hear me out. Against USF, he utilized the feat of Carson Beck and found success with QB draws and extended plays, kind of what they do, what USF does with their quarterback, right? Against Bethune-Cookman, he increased the tempo at times to strike at opportune times against Bethune-Cookman, which was kind of their bread and butter. Against Florida, he leaned into the rush heavy, which is what UF should have done and learned, I think, this weekend against Texas. And then against FSU this past weekend, he broke out the gadget plays like the flea flicker touchdown, which we will talk about in a few minutes. So I'm not sure if you're doing it on purpose, Shannon, but I'm peeping it. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I definitely see what you're doing. Okay. And so it'll be interesting to see what he does moving forward. Again, I also think Carson Beck looked phenomenal thanks to the O-line. The O-line giving Carson Beck all day, only allowing 2 pressures all night compared to 24 made by FSU's O-line. Um, they held up. Again, it was, there were clearly 2 different teams. The box score would tell you different. If you're waking up Sunday morning, or you're waking up this morning, you didn't watch the game and you just see number 3 against number 18, comes out with a 28-22 win. No, it wasn't that. This was not a heater at all. I mean, Miami played lights out for roughly 3 quarters. Again, there were definitely, I think, red flags along the way in the game. I actually was so flabbergasted by the fourth quarter. I had to literally, after I said goodbye to my guests that came over, I literally had to stay up till 2 a.m. rewatching the game because I just didn't understand. I'm like, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance here. How can we look and feel so dominant, but then have these 19 unanswered points in the fourth quarter? I had to go back and watch it. But Carson Beck, Studley, 20 for 27, 241 yards, average 8.9 yards a throw, 4 touchdowns. Here's the most important one, guys. Zero interceptions in a rivalry game. You look back at his game against Florida last year, interception city, turnover city. Really proud of Carson Beck going into hostile territory, first road game. Again, all intents and purposes, I thought he was lights out. I thought he was great. However, there was one major red flag And that actually was technically the yellow flags being dropped. Lots and lots of costly penalties throughout the game. 13 for 114 yards. The worst part is, yes, 13 double digits. We should not be handling. I know Mario's making these guys run sprints. I know they are getting chewed out this week for that amount of penalties. Also for 114 yards. Wild. But here's the worst part. A lot of those penalties came at the worst times. Malachi Toney's touchdown in the second quarter nullified by a penalty for illegal motion. Again, the penalty doesn't really impact what happened on the field. It wasn't like it was a holding. It wasn't like it was an illegal block. It wasn't like there was illegal men downfield. It was more of a procedural thing. A guy was just misaligned on the line pre-snap. Again, further proof of why we really just out-athlete FSU. Again, in my mind, if we were playing a full game, this should have been a 35-3 game. Way better than what I anticipated. But there was just this thing in the fourth quarter that occurred. We're going to get into it later, but penalties, man. Penalties were killing us. I think throwing deep on the flea flicker that we were just talking about after that turnover was a great example of Miami testing the over-the-top ability of its wide receivers and Carson Beck. Again, this whole season, we've really kind of kept it simple, medium to short passes. Probably I'd say no more than like 20 yards on average was the longest we were going. We went deep this time, and it was nice. It was nice to see Malachi Toney get out there. CJ Daniels, again, a lot of these deep threats were great, but what I was more impressed by was the ability to outmaneuver and rack up those yak yards. I mean, that was just, again, that is just toe to toe proving that you are a better athlete, that you are far talented. There is superior talent on this side. And I say that because there was a lot of talk coming into this that FSU was going to put up a fight, that this was going to be a much closer game. A lot of people didn't think, even ESPN included, that Miami wouldn't cover the spread. They clearly did. And the spread probably should have been bigger. But incredible to see how FSU, who struggled against the rush, able to hold Miami to just 97 yards, right? Yeah, 97 yards. Mark Fletcher only got 40 yards. Keelan Marion, who's a wide receiver, got 22. And then Marty Brown, just 19. Again, I'm going to go into Jordan Lyle in a minute when we talk about the fourth quarter, because I thought that was probably the biggest coaching malpractice of the game. But again, thought that was amazing. Props to FSU for flipping the script on that issue that they had. They were able to fix that. However, again, Miami showing it's an elite team. It's a championship contender team by being able to lean on another aspect, utilize other weapons. And Malachi Toney was lights out. Absolute cinema, guys. 7 receptions, 107 yards, averaging 15.3 yards a reception, 2 incredible touchdowns. Changed the momentum of the game. Both of his touchdowns changed, like, just utterly, like, nail in the coffin, stamp, give me that dub. It was incredible to watch this kid. Again, we have to remember, guys, this kid just turned 18 this month, or within the last week. He has just turned 18. He graduated early. He should be playing high school ball, and this guy is balling out this year. Again, absolute cinema, stud. I was talking to a friend at church yesterday and was like, yo, if we think he's good now, wait till his body develops in about a year or two. Let me tell you something. I mean, I don't know if he'll go through a growth spurt whatsoever, but just developing himself physically, not even the growth, but this guy is going to be a problem, guys. And I am looking to the future. Third downs, not that great. They really killed us. We went 5 for 14. I think we really need to improve that. I think that's something Mario at the end of the game had kind of talked about. Hey, like, what separates great teams from good teams is everyone, as you get into this conference play, is going to know your ticks. They're going to know your habits, and the good teams change their weaknesses. They fix and improve on their weaknesses as the weeks go on so that other teams cannot utilize them. And I think we really got to get better at third down. I think third down really hurt us. I think, again, FSU's ability to shut down the run, I think we could still lean on the run, but in different ways, which is what we're going to get into right here. Fourth quarter issues. Again, fourth quarter was so damn bad. So damn bad. I had to wait till Monday because I had to, again, reset my mind because I was going to come in here yesterday and record this and be like, guys, we just had a moral loss. You know, there's a moral victory where you lose and you're like, all right, let's look at the silver lining. This was one of them situations where I was looking at, we won, but it didn't feel like we won. It didn't feel like we won. And man, that was, in recent memory, probably one of the ugliest fourth quarters we played. I mean, I really can't. You had, again, referring back to those costly penalties. One of them, Lofton holding at the beginning of the fourth quarter, killed that drive. Killed that drive. Put us back 10 yards. It was just, it wasn't, it wasn't the right time to lose your discipline. Again, I think FSU was probably primed for some sort of a comeback. Again, you can only hold it. Again, remember, this is the number one offense, especially specifically scoring. They've only got 3 points up into the fourth quarter. You can only hold that for so long. At some point, we knew. That's why I gave them 17 in our preview. At some point, they were gonna hit you. And again, that Lofton hold, I think, really set us back. And it was almost an albatross for what was going to occur in the fourth quarter. Another issue I found in the offense in the fourth quarter was, why were we running up the middle so much with Lyle? Again, I know why you're putting Lyle in, fresh legs, explosive ability, but run to the perimeter. Run to the perimeter. You can waste more time on the clock. Yes, you can lose yards, but I mean, if you're already committing these freaking penalties that are driving you back 10 yards, I'd rather lose 2 yards on a perimeter and chance running on the perimeter with Lyle than get a holding penalty by Lofton. You know what I mean? I did not understand the use of Lyle running up the middle. If you're going to do that, put in Fletcher. Put in Fletcher. He is your sledgehammer, right? Lyle, he's your perimeter guy. He's your speed guy. He's your explosive guy. Get a little bit more creative. I also thought we were way too conservative and the play calls were awkward in the fourth. Just like really weird plays and telegraphed. Like literally, like we basically were like in the fourth quarter, like, here's the playbook. This is what we're going to run. We're going to run on first and second down up the middle. Then we're going to do a random middle throw, like not deep, but like a middle length throw down the middle. It was like they knew exactly where we're going to be. And all they had to do is just set in coverage. And that's why I think you saw, again, if you look at Miami's fourth quarter drives, I mean, again, it was horrible, horrible, horrible. It was touchdown in the third, right? Then we get 1 minute left, under 2 minutes in the third, punt. We get to 10 minutes in the fourth quarter, punt. Loss on downs. Game. Again, it's just like shooting ourselves in the foot. I mean, someone else shot themselves in the foot. The Seminoles, which we're going to get into in a minute as we talk about the defense. But I just thought the play calling was way too conservative. You could tell, I mean, even as I went back and watched some of the analysis of this game, you could tell that even people who aren't fans of the program would even say, hey, like, there was a shift. There was a change in the dynamic of the way Miami was running its offense and its defense in the fourth quarter. And I think, again, I don't know what Mario is thinking. Again, he gets paid the millions. I don't. But it ain't working this year. And I think when we do our midseason report next week, later this week, technically, this is something I'm genuinely worried about. Kind of like where our defense was last year. I'm kind of worried about Mario's proclivity for wanting to be conservative with the lead. Again, I'm not sure if it's a sportsmanship thing and he's like, hey, we're obviously demonstrating we are a vastly superior team and we are a stronger team. There's no need to beat them while they're down. Or whether he just believes that, hey, if we go conservative, we can still out athlete them. But I would rather us win and disrespect the team by going 45-3 and you just take the heat in the press conference afterwards for running it up than for us almost losing this game. I mean, again, that's a little bit of a dramatic statement, but again, let's just say that that final onside kick goes the other way. FSU gets the ball at the 38, 40 yard line. Again, with the way that game was going, if you look at FSU's last two drives, I mean, they were literally touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Their last three drives. I mean, it's insane. And again, their last field goal, they only needed 52 seconds to score that, and then their first touchdown of the fourth quarter, they only needed under 3 minutes. So they get the ball back, let's just say, with under maybe a minute and a half, maybe a minute and 17 seconds. Again, that's plenty of time for FSU to get to scoring position. And we saw what they did to Virginia going to double overtime. I just it was a very big cause for concern that the switch. And so I think moving forward, I kind of alluded to it in last week's show. I think Mario needs to get out of his own way. I think he needs to give Shannon Dawson the reins and just let him run. Stick to the plan. Just keep doing what's winning. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so, major issues. And again, I'm going to close on this with the offense, which it was a little worrisome. I think there was a horrible Mario type call to not call a timeout during the fourth down attempt with under a minute and 18 seconds left. Again, it's fourth down. I understand. I think we had maybe 8 yards to go. They said Malachi Toney out, but you can tell Mario's like, hey, I'm going to wait till there's 1 second left on play clock. I'm going to call timeout. And he said it twice to Shannon Dawson. I think if you go back and watch, he says it twice to Shannon Dawson. Because Shannon's like, hey, we're going to call timeout. And he's like, oh, we're going to call it 1 second. And then like it gets to like under 7 seconds on the play clock. And Mario's like, no, we're going to let him run it. We're going to let him run it. And I'm like, what are we doing? If you're offensive coordinator and you have this gut feeling that we need to call a timeout and recoup this play and refigure it out, do it. You have nothing to lose. You literally have nothing to lose. At the end of the day, there was a minute and 18 seconds left. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. Okay. I think these are things you can improve on. I think these are things that you can, assign to your assistants to say, hey, when we're here, remember what we're going to do this. I thought it was really cool how like ESPN throughout the game, like was putting up the analytics, go for it, don't go for it. Miami, I think we should have gone for it. I also would have taken the field goal. Give them the ball back. You bring it back down to maybe minute 15, minute 13, kick the field goal, drives it back down to about a minute and 10. You go from there, you pin them back, and you make them drive like you did against Notre Dame. That's what you do. And you did it against Notre Dame, who, no offense, FSU, you're not Notre Dame. You're not Notre Dame. And you would have held them. So those are my things. Again, it was a W. I have to heavily rely on social media to keep my vibes up right now because that fourth quarter was so damn ugly, and we're going into a work week, not a bye week. We call it a work week down here. I hope they can clean that up because we've got a short week against Louisville. I know we have this work week, but I don't like weekday games. They kind of freak me out a little bit. I get a little like, anything other than the usual stuff gets me a little worried. I'm not superstitious, but I'm just like, not sure about that. And Louisville's coming in. They're ready to play. They've got 2 outstanding wide receivers. And so my hope is that, we can fix a lot of these issues. Third down, penalties, couple coaching decisions that were made. Strategy, okay? You go up on Louisville. Let's just say it's 28-7 by the half. You pour on another 28 in the second half. You just keep pounding the ball. Again, Miami, from here on out, there's no one who's going to stand with us, realistically. We will be the only team to defeat ourselves. That's it. I don't think there's a person on this schedule. I don't think there's a team on the schedule. There's not a logo on the schedule that's going to, 1, bring eyes. But 2, I don't think there's a team out there that right now can defeat us. Unless we make these mistakes that we made against FSU. But I'm very positive about our offense. I think our offense did a really great job adjusting. You're going to take this aspect of our offense away, we'll kill you this way. And I think there was room for a lot of other plays and a lot of other things to happen. And so I thought we played a great game there. Moving over to the defensive line and the defense. Wow. The line of scrimmage dominated by Miami. Tons of pressure. Ridiculous. Castellanos was ridiculously elusive. Props to him. I think if there was a lesser QB, a less mobile QB, we would have easily had an additional 7 sacks than the ones we had. Ruben Bain, fun fact, got this from Kane's Corner. Shout out to them. Ruben Bain had more pressures than the entire FSU defense. He had 11 pressures himself. FSU, 7. 7 total in the whole game. Wild stat. Miami's defense played pretty disciplined in their assignments. I thought, again, you play against a gimmicky defense like this, you've got to play sound, you've got to play disciplined football. And I think they did for the most part, especially in the first half and then that third quarter. I think FSU just found holes in the zone when we were playing zone, and they were just keeping those drives alive, and we just couldn't put them to bed. Castellanos, I think, was the most impactful against our defense when the pocket collapsed. You could see a lot of the third and fourth down conversions that they made were all extended. They very few. I probably can count on my hand how many conversions they made for first downs were made initially. Like it wasn't an extension play. He was in the pocket and it was a designed play. And I have to give Castellanos. I was telling a friend of mine who cheers for FSU. He's a Knoll. I was like, listen, I know you're down on your team, and because he was telling me they played terrible. And I was like, listen, you got to be happy you got Castellanos and you've got Deuce Robinson, because without those guys, FSU would absolutely be a 2-10 team. I mean, Castellanos literally put the team on his back, grabbed his buddy Deuce Robinson's hand and said, let's try and bring our team back. And they did. And I think FSU converting on 3rd and long and on 4th down killed us in the 4th quarter. Let me bring this stat up really quick. FSU converted on 4th down, 3 for 4 and 7 for 16. So almost 50% of the 3rd downs they converted, and 3/4 of the 4th downs they converted on. Again, it was just this ability for Castellanos to see the pocket collapse, make a move with his legs. And it was, again, this is my worry. So had my worries for the offense in terms of getting too conservative, misusing our weapons. Defense, big issue. When quarterbacks extend plays, they extend drives. It was very apparent in this game, and it's kind of been apparent all season. You look at the Notre Dame game, you look at the Florida drive where they scored. When offenses we play against are able to extend plays, I'm not sure whether it's the coverage. I'm not sure if it's the velocity of our defensive line getting into the backfield, and they're able to maneuver out of that, and therefore there's that pocket of grass that they're able to use. But again, I've just noticed that when the play is extended, it's almost guaranteed that the team is going to convert. And we saw that again with the 3rd and longs, with the 4th downs, just getting utterly destroyed. On a positive side of our defense, turnovers were crucial. Turnovers literally just sucked the air out of the game. The momentum shifted. This was a very momentum-driven game. You could tell. And that's why I think FSU was able to get that groundswell in the 4th, because for those 3 quarters, Miami was just putting it on them, right? The momentum shifted when we decided to rest on our laurels and they were to get back. But 2 picks and a fumble. Incredible. Bryce Fitzgerald's interception. Man, on a second look, when you look at that play, the announcers, Kirk and Chris Fowler were mentioning that they thought maybe it was a missnap. I don't think so. Go back and watch that. When Castellanos claps, I think that's a designed trick play to throw off offenses so that he's not looking. He can make a quick throw. I think the issue is when you've got Mesidor and you've got Bain coming at you, those trick plays don't work. And so I rewatched that Bryce Fitzgerald pick, and I'm almost convinced that was a design trick play to do that. And only to have Miami turn around and deliver that flea flicker of their own on a 44-yard Malachi Toney touchdown was incredible. I thought that was just serendipitous. I think that was, again, don't know if it's Tony White, don't know if it's Norvell, but again, as sure as the sun will rise in the east and set in the west, when someone gets a pick, you have to know that the opposing team is going to go over the top for an explosive play. That's their shot. They have nothing to lose. They got a gimme drive. They're going to use it. And why Tony White wasn't prepared for that, why Norvell didn't remind Tony, hey, watch out for the over the top, watch out for the trick play, watch out. Don't know. Worked out in our favor against teams like Ohio State, against teams like Georgia. I, I don't know. I don't know that's going to work because that was pretty much telegraphed. But again, defense incredible. I think the targeting penalty put FSU in greater field possession in that last drive, in that last fourth quarter. Again, penalties, both sides of the ball, offense and defense. There was also a late hit out of bounds. Just again, I understand it's a rivalry game. And I love how Mario Cristobal has kind of alluded to in a lot of the media leading up into this game and after the game that, like, we don't want to be like Miami of years past. We want to move forward. We want to take the hard work and the grit and the winning tradition of the past forward. But that, bad boy image, that dirty play, we don't want to do that. And it kind of leaked out a little bit, and I get it. It's a rivalry game, but there were some really costly penalties on the defense as well, like the targeting penalty that I think not shifted the momentum, but was a little bit of like fresh air for the FSU offense and for FSU to continue their drives. One thing I did notice about the defense, and this is why I think they played lights out for the most part up into that fourth quarter, was this FSU gimmicky offense. It's really meant to play with a lead, right? And I found that FSU ended up shooting themselves in the foot a lot with this gimmicky offense because they were losing more yards than they were gaining with the gimmicks, with either end arounds or with these motions. I was like, I understand what you're trying to do, and I understand this is kind of what you have to do given the talent you have, but it's costing you, and you're seeing that you're not keeping up, so you may want to shift it up. And I think that style, again, is only going to be successful when you're playing with the lead. And Miami, again, there were times at the very beginning where it was working, but gimmicky offenses like what Gus Malzahn likes to do will only work for so long. Because especially if you're playing against a disciplined defense, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to start shutting down your avenues, and you're not going to be able to use those plays anymore. You're not, and people are going to be aware of what you're doing. It'll become very telegraphed at some point. And I thought that's what happened with our defense as the game went on, specifically post halftime. You get into that third quarter, that our defense was trucking. I mean, we were literally, Tommy Castellanos, again, going back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, Tommy Castellanos has to put the team on his back. And he had to extend plays to extend drives. And that was the only way FSU was moving the ball. They were not moving the ball for any other reason. And I think that was the only positive thing you could say about FSU is that Tommy Castellanos was a problem with his feet all night by extending plays, but crucial plays, especially in that fourth quarter. Tommy was just doing things that, again, where he probably lacked in his decision making, he made up for in his talent. He said after the game, he puts the blame squarely on him. I think that's great, as a good leader should do. I hope he can rebound from this because I really need FSU to look good for the rest of the year. FSU at any moment right now can slide into Losersville, or they can maybe hopefully rebound from these two back-to-back losses and win out the rest of their season. Not sure they're going to be in contention for the ACC anymore, given the fact they have 2 ACC losses, but we know about the ACC will of suck. We know what happens in the ACC, so anything can happen, and maybe we see FSU again in Charlotte. My bet, my preference is Georgia Tech. I'd love to see a Georgia Tech team that's high on themselves, ready to win a conference championship and for us to get revenge. That's what I would love to see. Again, I'm not mad. I know I kind of poo-pooed on the team a little bit. I probably am not as positive as a lot of people are, but I'll take 28-22. In my mind, it was 35-3. That's how I'll always remember it. Just like the 2002 national championship, we won. We did not lose to Ohio State. Miami remains undefeated, 1-0 in conference play. We pick up with Louisville after this week. We've got a bye week this week, a work week this week. We're going to hopefully, like I said, go back to the shed, figure these things out, correct these things out, clean some things up, and hopefully put a work into Louisville. I want to see what happens. Guys, I left it to the last. Hopefully you guys are watching this till the end. We have got a guest coming on the show that I cannot wait for you guys to see. Later this week, we'll be talking about the Cane season up until now, what we expect moving forward with this guest. Stay tuned, guys. You guys are going to want to watch this. Well, we got another one in the books, y'all. Another one in the books. Thank you all for watching. Until later this week with our guest, where we discuss our midseason report. Be good, y'all. Win this week. And as always, go Canes.